Wait. No. I was gonna make a video on Borderlands 1 because I just wanted like gameplay to be different than all the other Borderlands games, and then I see this on Borderlands 1. Pissing me off, Gearbox. You're pissing me off. And you put a little box in the top right. Holy why do you promote all these new games on every other game that people play? Maybe if you took critique from the older, never mind. Today's video is about something completely different. Today we're going over the different types of Borderlands players. Now these are gonna range from a bunch of different people, from the loot goblins to the griefers. So if you are any of these, let me know in the comments down below, and if I missed out on anything, I will probably do it in a part 2 if you guys request it. Now the first type of Borderlands player we're going to be going over is the loot goblin. Now the loot goblin is usually not that big of a deal when playing solo, but the second he wants to play with some friends, it becomes very apparent what his goals are. You probably had one of these in your friend group to where they just suddenly magically have legendaries in their inventory after saying they didn't even get a drop. We all know that was bullshit. I'm talking to you, that one friend that may be watching this video, you know who you are. But most of the time they will just hide the fact that they have great legendary gear until they find something better, and they're like, hey, does anybody want this legendary shield that I just so happened to get a few levels ago? But the loot goblin isn't all entirely negative. They also can help you with certain farms. 99% of the time, most loot goblins know exactly what item drops from what boss. So if you ever need anything, just ask your fellow loot goblin in the friend group. And for all you loot goblins that play solo, do you really open every chest on the map, or is that just old superstition? Now for the next Borderlands player that you're all probably very, very familiar with is the builder. This guy will beg and plead every 10 minutes to go back to Sanctuary to respec his skill tree so he could have every single skill points in the proper place, because when it's not, he is missing out on damage. Now these guys generally never die in your playthroughs, but it's annoying nothing less that they need to respec every level. Trust me, Jonathan, your build isn't going to change so drastically that when you level up from 23 to 24, you're magically going to be one-shotting everything. Unless you're Zero and you have Boar, or unless you're Salvador and you get Overkill, but that's really the only circumstances I could see where respecing a singular point would matter in any situation. But of course, these build masters do have their positives. They will be very quick to point out that you have skill points in the wrong places and that your build could be so much better. So take their advice on it, because generally they eat, breathe, and sleep builds and they know what they're talking about. They'll also be that one person in the group that knows everything about every class mod and what it does. So these guys are pretty knowledgeable when it comes to most things character-wide, and they don't typically just specialize in a singular character, but rather the entire roster when it comes to all their different playstyles. If you're the build master of the group, let me know if you guys are the type of people that tells their friends where to spec into, or if you have your friends that constantly ask you, where does this point go? Should I spec into this, or is this worth it? You know, you've probably heard it before. I know I have. Now for my personal favorite type of Borderlands player, we have Supportive Sally. And now this person in the group is always focused on other people. This person doesn't care if you gave them a level 1 gub and a sham shield. They are just there to make your experience entirely better and make things go a lot smoother. These guys are generally Maya players in Borderlands 2, or they were Zane players in Borderlands 3, and they just wanted to support their team. Even in Borderlands 1, you had Roland with his healing turrets, and a lot of people enjoyed that role as well. But these guys are awesome. They always run transfusion grenades, they're always there to res you, and in general, they don't really spec for anything that really helps them, which I guess you could see as a crutch when it comes down to doing certain bosses. But you have to remember, you can't kill the raid bosses if your whole team's dead. So big shout outs to all the Supportive Sallys out there. You guys are the reason why a lot of raid bosses win smoothly. Even though I know you weren't doing any damage, you were definitely there carrying the team, no matter how much people like to make fun of you. And if you guys are the supportive role in Borderlands, who did you do it with and what kind of build did you do? I heard different setups that you can do with even Axon being a supportive role, so it's not just the healer-like characters that could actually pull this off. Now for our fourth type of Borderlands player, this one's a little bit funny to me because I have one in my group. I like to call them the Titan Brain. Now yes, this is a Destiny reference referring to the Titans and their weird Titan Brain playstyle of punching everything. Most notably, these guys used to main Brick in Borderlands 1, and that quickly translated into playing Krieg in Borderlands 2, and then in Borderlands 3, they most likely played Amara. So you get the point of these type of players. These guys are generally the ones that kind of spec into anything that has the word melee damage and maximum health and health regeneration. Those are their three favorite words, trust me. But having these type of guys on your team is always awesome because they're generally running into battle and screaming at the top of their lungs through their microphone, punching everything in sight, and when they go down, it's no big deal. They'll get themselves up. Trust me, I don't really know how they do it using a melee build, but they never really fully die no matter what. They could be fighting Terramorphous and they'll get a second wind on the dude. I really don't understand it. But I do gotta show some love. These guys have a lot of great positives, but the only negative I could say with these guys guys is they go down quite a bit, so get ready to hear that downing sound every 5.5 seconds, unless they're playing Athena, because Athena truly never dies. But if you're the type of Titan Brain player in the Borderlands series, who do you enjoy using the most? I know a lot of people do like Krieg the most just because of his melee damage, even though it does fall off into the higher OP levels, but I do know that he is probably the most enjoyable melee character in my personal opinion. And now for the fifth and final type of Borderlands player, we have the Siren Simps. Now, I have to say the Siren Simps, and I don't mean that in a very offensive way. I just like to point out that this is the type of player that always plays a Siren in any Borderlands game, regardless of their playstyle, mainly because of their assets and other features. But these guys just enjoy playing female characters and sirens in general, if it be how they look, or just simply you enjoy the lore behind Borderlands and like playing the sirens and enjoy their playstyle. These guys will love any siren. You know dang well they played Lilith, transitioned into Maya, and then Amara. Now the pre-sequel, it's a little bit harder to see where they went in terms of player. Maybe Athena, because Athena feels the most like a siren in the pre-sequel, but who knows. But these guys are generally looking for the highest damage builds on their sirens. I swear these siren players always want to be the top damage honcho, regardless of what game it is. These guys are going to run the most broken thing in the game. If you're playing Borderlands 1, you best know you're farming for that double Anarchy SMG, and the first thing that they're going to do once they load up Borderlands 2 is go into the Captain Scarlet DLC and get that damn Sandhawk. You know you're gonna do it. Everybody does it. I know every siren does. But these guys are great. These guys are generally doing a bunch of damage, even though they flex a little bit on how much damage they can do. Little do they know other characters are capable of way more damage, but don't tell them that. They are really, really knowledgeable when it comes to sirens, and they know a lot about the lore most of the time, and they were big fans of the lore. You know those siren logs in Borderlands 3? I guarantee you those were the type of people that really, really wanted to collect every single one of those. The only downside I can see for the siren players is they will not really use anything very different than most other siren players. A lot of siren players like to do the same things. Like if you're playing Amara in Borderlands 3, you're probably going to use it just like everybody else. I'm not going to dip my toes into the siren build diversity, but if you look at every siren in the Borderlands series, they typically seem to be the least diverse in terms of builds. If you look at Lilith in Borderlands 1, there was only 1 or 2 builds that were great. Maya had 1 or 2 builds that were good. You get the gist. When it comes to endgame, sirens generally don't have a lot of different setups that they could experiment with, which is kind of unfortunate. But that's it, guys. That's just my most notable 5 types of Borderlands players. There is plenty more, and if you would like to see a part 2 in this series, please let me know by supporting this video by hitting the like button down below and leaving a comment which type of person you are, and maybe I'll feature your comments in the next video, and subscribe for more Borderlands videos in the future. You all have a terrific day, and I'll see you guys later.